but trying to let him understand that overcommitting is not the solution there because he got a lot of input from management, the product owner. He feels so responsible for the work that he's doing that he has to say yes to everything. A stakeholder comes from outside, says, this chunk of work has come, you have to complete it. And he said, okay, yes, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And this is the
Okay.
root cause of the problem, in my opinion.
Scrum Master and Product Owner are supposed to work together as a team to really achieve success. But what if you and your Product Owner are constantly at odds with each other? What if they have managerial power to make decisions that you know will drive the Scrum team to failure in the long term? This is a situation that many of us can find ourselves in if we didn't set up the right expectations with our product owners and management. In this episode, I'm talking with Giulio about how to create collaborative relationships with your product owner in challenging situations, and what changes you can implement in the way the team works to reduce stress and pressure while increasing their ability to deliver. Giulio has been a Scrum Master since 2019 when he transitioned from the project manager role. What he really likes about the job is that every day is different, and he can help the team to have significant improvements in the way they work. Giulio grew up and lives in the beautiful Lake Como area in Italy with his wife and 2 cats. Let's hear more of his Scrum Master stories. Hey everyone, it's Daria here. Welcome to the Agile Audit, a podcast where we sit down with your fellow colleagues to talk about the real-life Agile and Scrum, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Hi Giulio, it is really nice being able to speak with you today. Thank you for joining in, and I know you're bringing some good questions for me, so let's jump right in.
Hi, Daria. Nice to see you and nice to be here with you. Actually, I'm working with 2 teams in the same Agile release train that are completely different from each one. One is more mature, and the team composition is defined by people that are working together from a long time. And the other one is a quite new team dedicating themselves mostly to support requests, but on the other side, they are working also on some delivery of new features to stakeholders. I'm trying to work with the PO according to the story points that we are delivering every sprint, but it seems like he doesn't work to rely on velocity when it comes to plan the work ahead for the next sprint in terms of sprint planning, because he's overcommitting every time. 20 story point as the velocity we are actually having. He's committing 40 story points because the team has 2 different
types of work, you mean? Or?
Yeah, it's like one is working on database and some of them are working on application. So he's trying to balancing the work between the different team members in order to have every one of them covered by work for the next sprint. But this is causing every sprint having the team overloaded with things to be done and a lot of carryovers every sprint. And I keep teaching him on how to rely on velocity as a number to focus on when planning according to the capacity of the team, but he's not following me. And every time he feels undertaking stories, so he wants to overcommit.
Like what to do here? Well, I have a couple of things that immediately kind of popped into my head. First thing, I think what struck me that when you were saying it, the product owner commits to the story point. So is it the product owner who decides how much work is actually being taken into the sprint?
Yes. Exactly.
Okay,
yes.
So this is your main problem actually, because the product owner only decides the order, like what are we doing exactly, the order of the items in your product backlog, but not how much work is going to go into the sprint, because it's not the product owner who is doing the job. So the only people who can say how much work is they are able to take into the sprint are the developers.
Background of the situation is that the product owner is also a developer and he's working actively on the sprint backlog. I teach the team that they are responsible to pick stories on the sprint planning in order to have the sprint backlog decided altogether. But they are relying too much on the product owner
On
because
the PO?
yes, exactly, because they were working until 3 months ago, and I joined this team 2 months ago. They were working waterfall from 15 years, let's say. They had a centralized person that looking at the work to be done and assign it back to the developers. So they are not feeling responsible for their work. So they are waiting for the product owners to give them the job to be done and then do it in the sprint.
Okay, so we need to work more on the team's responsibility, and obviously the fact that the product owner makes the decisions doesn't help. So in this case, I think you actually still need to work with him and more kind of on the leadership side of things. He is a developer. How much time realistically he's dedicating to
80% of his time doing dev work and 20% product owners. And in the last 2 weeks, the situation is that he's dedicating himself 100% of his time on dev work and 0% of product ownership.
Well, that's because he is overcommitting. That's the problem is there. Okay, well, a few things, I guess, maybe going back to the basics. First of all, I don't know if you did like a training for them to explain, because as you say, until 3 months ago, they were working in a completely different way of working, right? They were working like in a waterfall. What kind of training did they have previously? Did they have any training on Scrum, what it is, and like the roles and responsibilities?
Actually, I don't know because this was a company decision. They want to, the whole company, they want for the Italian division of this company to use SAFE for their teams. So before I joined, they had training on SAFE. And after than that, they had the green lights to go using Scrum as a tool for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't invested much time on training on Scrum because, I have another team that I have to take care of. And on the other hand, I can see that things are going not that well, but at least the role is things are going on.
Yeah.
But I haven't invested much time on proper training on Scrum.
I think you don't have to do like a big training, classroom training or anything like that, but I think it's good to maybe go back to the roles and responsibilities to kind of reiterate what it means to be part of a Scrum team, right? What the role of the product owner is, but then the fact that the developers are actually responsible for their work, they're responsible for estimating the work and deciding how much work they can take into the sprint. Some kind of like the training session in this case, I think would be helpful, like a workshop type of thing, more focused on the roles and responsibilities. But then you do need to work with that product owner.
And do you think everyone has to be involved?
Well, the whole team.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely. Yeah. The whole team. Everyone should be there, like the product owner and the developers, obviously. And the product owner, you do need to work with the product owner. Maybe you can start collecting some metrics to kind of show him what the problem is, because the real problem is that the amount of time, as you say, he's spending more and more time on development work instead of being a product owner. But he has a full-time product owner role that needs to be fulfilled somehow, right? That is not being fulfilled. And then talk about the history of non-delivery, let's say, right? Hey, here's realistically what has happened, right? What has been completed and what we thought we could complete and what we realistically completed. So why are we trying to add more and more if historically we can see it's not working? Like, tell me the definition of insanity. And so kind of going back to maybe a bit of that numbers.
I pick up the numbers every time we have sprint planning and I show in front of the team, okay, guys, we are trying to committing to deliver 50 story points, but now numbers in Jira reports shows us that we have delivered not much than 24 story points. Why are we doing that? We haven't planned the work for everyone in the team. So he's trying to figure out that everyone has something to do. But what happens every sprint is that the incoming work that we haven't planned for support to other teams fill the space of the other devs. So the devs...
Okay.
Yeah, the day after the sprint planning have a lot of things to be done because they have to give support to other teams. And I've also spoken to management here to let them know that this is the situation. We are overcommitting. We are going also through PI planning process every quarter. We are committing to delivery of some features or epics, considering that the product owner is not working 100% and we are overcommitting, we cannot stick to the PI planning plan that we had on a quarterly level. But the answers that I got from management are always evasive. They say, we know the situation about this team. We are considering a new evaluation on the people that are working on the team. And that's it. So I know for sure that having a new person, having the role of the product owner in the team could be helpful because at least I have someone to rely on as a product owner because the actual product owner do a very important job from the dev point of view, that it's really important for the company. And I'd like for him to be dedicated to that job instead of doing the product owner. But if from the company I don't get any information that something will change sooner or later, I have to stick to this situation. But trying to let him understand that overcommitting is not the solution there because he got a lot of input from management, the product owner. He feels so responsible for the work that he's doing that he has to say yes to everything. A stakeholder comes from outside, says, this chunk of work has come, you have to complete it. And he said, okay, yes, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And this is the root cause of the problem, in my opinion. And on the other hand, as you said, having a reflection on team responsibilities can help me on the other team members to say, okay, on the sprint planning, okay, guys, but we are overcommitting. So we have to plan less in order to deliver something next sprint.
Well, I think you need to work much more with your product owner on the role, like actually setting the time. And I know you work with another team, but it seems like this team needs more help. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the other team, but right now we're talking about this team. And so I'd say they need more help. They need a little bit more hand holding, which means that probably, honestly, you need to spend at least 1 or 2 hours a week with your product owner, just talking about the product owner stuff until he gets to the point where he can prioritize. Because if he says yes to everything, the reason why he does it is that he has zero prioritization system because he doesn't know what is more important. Is it which stakeholder is screaming the loudest? Because if he is overcommitting, kind of talking to him about the long term, what it's going to lead to is a lot of disappointment. Because you're going to say yes to everyone, and in the end, you won't be able to deliver because we are not magicians, right? And that you are overcommitting and you know it, right? And in the end, the team will not be able to do it. Well, they're going to turn back to you because you told them it's possible. So before we get to that point, let's set the right expectations, and things like velocity can help us. Talking about the thing that happens in the sprint planning where we say, hey, look at velocity, we're never able to complete. Oh, but we don't have enough work. Well, you just told me there are lots of new support tickets coming in. Well, what about metrics on those support tickets? How are you tracking them? Are they estimated?
No, they are not estimated because I don't want that the velocity will be affected by those. So we are not estimating those tickets. We keep it as 0 story point.
That's fine, but you need to track them.
Yeah, at the end of the sprint.
You need to track them somehow.
At the sprint review, I show stakeholders when stakeholders are coming to sprint reviews because you did a good video about that on YouTube. And I saw that. I showed them how much unplanned stories, unplanned tickets we have during the sprint for the support work we have to other teams. And it's about 40% of our tickets coming from outside every sprint.
Yeah.
And they are enough to fill the work for the devs that haven't planned anything in the sprint. So sooner or later, something will come for them. And on the other hand, we have also a cross-functionality problem in the team because, as I told you, 2 team members are fully dedicated to database stuff and the other 3 members are dedicated to application. We have just one dev that knows kind of something of database and something of
Okay.
applications, but the other team members doesn't know nothing about the two
Yeah, of course.
aspects. So I'd like to stress out that if we don't have anything planned for the other devs, maybe they can invest times to pair programming with the other devs
Yeah,
working on database.
exactly. 100%. I think that's a good way to also say, don't worry, they will have work, right?
Yeah.
But when you're going into the sprint review and they say, oh, but we don't have enough work. Well, first of all, we have 40, I don't know, if you have just at least the list number of tickets, you may even want to start collecting like how much time people actually spend on those tickets. Like not the estimation, but like an approximate number, like how many hours did you spend on this once you're already finished? And so say, well, first of all, we will not be like, sometimes you need to be more strict. You're the scrum master. You kind of are the holder of the process. And I think it's okay to say, well, look, prove to me that you can complete 40 story points. And then we will be taking 40 story points. But this sprint, we're only taking 20. That's the maximum, right? Once we finish it, great. We will keep adding things. Don't worry. Show me that you can finish 20.
Yes, exactly. This is what I should aim for. Because I don't want for me to be an imposed decision. I don't want that people feels that. On the other hand, I have to do something new.
Yeah.
That always complaining about that, but it's just one team member that is complaining about that, and he said always not in a good way, so it's not taken very seriously. But the message that I heard is the correct one. He's saying every time we are overcommitting, we cannot do that. Something has to change, yes, as you said.
Setting up some rules around that and also tracking that support ticket, like how much time is actually spent on it by the team, saying, hey, you think our capacity, like I don't know how long your sprint is, say 2 weeks. Oh, you think your capacity is 2 weeks? Well, actually, no, it's not 10 working days. It's minus 40% because this is what we have identified as how much time the support tickets take, right? So you only have 6 days in the sprint. That is your capacity. So we're only planning for 6 days. And so that also kind of putting in is that always, like, we actually don't have a full sprint to plan for ever because of the support tickets.
Yes, exactly.
And yes, I think putting in that plan, maybe for knowledge transfer in place, I think that's definitely a great idea. Saying, hey, you know, if someone doesn't have anything to do on day one of the sprint because we didn't receive any tickets, why don't we do some pair programming? Right? Why don't we expand that knowledge between the team members so that we can, like, in the long term, have not a full stack, but more cross-functionality on the team?
How can I leverage on people that doesn't want to have new skills and told me that they are not interested in having a new set of skills for themselves to enable cross-functionality?
That's where you go back to roles and responsibilities. Well, now we work in Scrum, and in Scrum, that is part of your job.
And that's it.
Same as planning, same as estimation. And this is part of your job. Are you trying to tell me that you don't want to do your job? Because I know you think that your job is just to code, but it is not. Right now, we're working in a Scrum environment. And look, it's your decision, but this is now required of. Do you like it? Do you want to work in this environment? That's up to you to decide, right? But right now, this is what the company's decision is to work in this environment. And that requires us to change, like our responsibilities change.
And don't you think that sometimes companies decide to bring up frameworks like SAFE in teams that have never adopted it, but do not really explain the reason that stands behind the adoption of that frameworks? And this really makes it harder for people to understand and start using it and start to really enjoy using Scrum as a tool to work with, because I use it also for my personal life. I use Scrum, I do sprint retrospective for myself in a weekly sprint, and I really enjoy work with Scrum. And I'd like to bring those values also to the team, but I can see that having them imposed to them really makes it difficult.
Well, I agree that a lot of companies kind of say, we're doing Scrum now or we're Agile. A lot of the times they don't actually know what it means. they don't understand the implications. As you say, or they don't explain the reason why. Probably they don't know the reason why. They just know that it's how most of the companies are working right now. That is one of the ways to attract talent for like new people who are coming from that kind of background. If you take like all of the fancy tech companies, right, you know that they are using some kind of that agile framework, and that's why it becomes more of we're just chasing the popular word, but we don't understand what it actually is. And so 100% a lot of companies, just kind of jump in it and say make it agile. And it often is like, okay, I made the decision. That is my role of a leader, to make the decisions. I made the decision. Now you go implement it. Except that when we're implementing Agile, now leadership has a role to play.
Yes, exactly.
Right? No, wait a minute. I know that usually like you got used to the fact that you just told people to do things and that's it. But now you're implementing Agile. Well, now you have extra stuff to do, actually, that is related to this new Agile implementation.
Yeah, and also command and control method doesn't work anymore, because if you want to implement Agile 100%, you have to leave that behind, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
But sometimes I can see the same patterns over and over again. People doing the boss with command and control and impose things. You have to do that. And on some people, this doesn't work and makes it really difficult to transition to Scrum. Even if Scrum is fantastic, I love it. For me, it doesn't have problems because I'm trying to think about Scrum and implement it to my daily life. I can see just benefit using Scrum.
Yeah.
And it's part of your day-to-day life. Working with Scrum, you can watch yourself, expect what you did the day before, try to plan something for the day after, have sprint goals and everything. But sometimes it's getting really difficult to let people understand all the benefits that are behind.
I think some people actually are not kind of made in a way to work in that Agile and Scrum environment, that the traditional way of working works well for them and it just works better for them, So I think it's more often we kind of make the change and the hard decisions in the companies are not being made where there are people who will not change, and these people are slowing down the rest of the organization, not because they're bad people or they're not doing the job. It's just that the new way of working is not working for them. That's it. That's the only reason. There is like it doesn't fit. And I think that is one of the things to sometimes help people understand that, hey, here is what Scrum requires. Here is like what it is. It's not about implementing like sprint planning, reviews, and retros, right? It's not about that. It's about everything else. It's about how we work, how we interact, continuous improvement, continuous learning. All of these things come with this new, and it's up to every person to make a decision. Okay, do I want to work in this environment?
Yeah.
Sometimes they just don't know. They think they can do the same thing, it's just they call it differently, but it's not true.
Yeah, but I think that openness here is playing a crucial role in order for people to really try to use Scrum as a tool for them also for their lives. I have another questions.
Go ahead.
About the other team. It's about the other team.
Okay.
This is a question that I posted also a comment on one of our video on YouTube, and it's about the sprint review. Okay, we are working within SAFE, and we have system demos every other Tuesday before iteration reviews. System demo has been planned every other Tuesday before iteration reviews, and the iteration review were imposed to be set on Tuesday mornings in order for stakeholders to jump into some iteration reviews and listen to the increment delivered by the teams and collecting some feedback and so on. But my team, before I joined the team, they had just the system demo and they never planned an iteration review. This is because one of their dev was the scrum master of the team. They really do not understand what's the iteration review about. Also because no one came to the iteration review to listen to the feedback of our team. They are thinking to do double job with the system demo. But I'd like to fight the status quo here with the RTE or the Agile Release Train, because I don't think that system demo should be done every sprint first and should be done on the same day of the iteration review, because this somehow invalidates the meaning of the sprint review, in my opinion.
So what is a system demo?
It's an artifact in Safe. It's an event that is held on the Agile Release level, where all the team meets in order to show stakeholders the increment they produced over the sprint. This can be done at the end of every sprint or at the end of the PI, program increment. But it's for everyone's aware of the increment that as a collective part of the Agile Release Train we produce about the product, because we work on the same product all together and we are presenting to stakeholders what we did over the last sprint in terms of features for the product. And this is happening, as I said, every sprint.
What is the difference? Like I myself kind of having trouble understanding what the difference is between the iteration review and the system demo. How are they different?
I don't know.
Okay.
No, I'm trying to figure it out because we have an hour and a half to have the system demo collectively, and every team has 8 minutes to present their increment during the sprint. But we are making some work before that because we maybe create a video to show the functionalities. We create an agenda to show the functionalities, to choose which functionality we'd like to share with the stakeholders. And then at the beginning, the release train engineer go through the agenda and pass the voice over to every team in order for them to present the increment to stakeholders. But this is presented on a high level, let's say, and the detailed level should be done in the iteration review, in the sprint review.
And so iteration review is one team?
Yeah, just one team. It's a sprint review.
Okay, but who are they presenting it to?
To stakeholders, if they can.
But it's the same stakeholders that are also in the system demo?
Yes, exactly. That's why I'm confused.
They're kind of right. It's the same thing. Why do you need two?
I don't know. But it's imposed that every team should have an iteration review, as they called it.
Imposed by who?
By the company. By the company.
Okay, yeah, but who is the company? Who is the person?
In this case, the RTE that is talking to management told us that we should have an iteration review after the system demo. And most of them are happening on the same time slot. For, I don't know, maximum three teams is having sprint reviews on the same times. So stakeholders cannot even join all the sprint reviews.
Well, you have the system demo.
Yeah. Exactly. And this is why I'm really confused.
Me too.
I don't know what to do because I'd like to say, okay, guys, but let's talk about this system demo or the system demo or the iteration review. You have to choose between one or the other one.
Yeah, between the one, right? Or the other. So for the system demo, when they are, because there are many, like all of the teams are there, other teams, well, I guess they are getting, like they all are working on the same product, I assume.
Yes, exactly.
So that's why they're all in the same review. Well, yes. That is that's kind of the whole point of that sprint review. Well, your sprint review, the real sprint review is your current system demo.
Yes, exactly.
You have all of the teams working on the same product there. You have all of the stakeholders, right? So you're reserving just one time slot for everyone. You are already doing what you would do in a sprint review, right? So for me, iteration review is just a waste of time from what I'm hearing right now. I would maybe extend the system demo to, I don't know how many teams you have, but 8 minutes to present and collect feedback. That's not a lot. I would extend the system demo to maybe 2.5 hours and put in a break of 10 minutes in the middle, you know? But iteration review, I don't see the point. And I think, as you say, you want to fight the status quo on this. I think you need to go back to the release train engineer and try to understand, like, why do you believe we need two? Because we're doing the same thing. Why is it needed? Is it just because it's like maybe in the SAFe framework? I don't know, because I'm not very familiar with the SAFe framework. But the reality is, even if it is, as I always say about any framework, what purpose does it serve? So if it doesn't bring any additional value, we should not have it. Just remove it, right? I don't know. For me, it makes no sense to have an iteration review. And on this side, like, I'm kind of siding with the developers.
Yeah, me too.
Like, what's the point?
I say to them, okay, let's try it this way and see how things are going, but it's not working. So I have to get back to someone and talk about it.
Yeah. So RTE, but you say that the RTE is talking with some management team, leadership teams?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah? Okay. If you can get into those discussions, that would be good. But in the meantime, it would be good to maybe identify some of the stakeholders that are actually like going into those meetings, into both, and ask them, what do you guys think? Like, because we feel that it maybe is, we're doing the same thing twice. Are you finding value in having two meetings? I think that can be also like a little poll.
Yeah, also considering that most of the time stakeholders doesn't come to iteration reviews because they already had the system demo.
Exactly. Well, there you go. Gather their feedback. Ask them, how often do you come to the iteration review? And why, if you don't come, why don't you come, right? Like,
yes, exactly.
A little survey with the stakeholders.
Yeah, for sure, 8 minutes for every team is not enough to collect feedbacks. Most of my struggling are with SAFe right now, as you can see.
It's just a framework. I know there's a lot of hate for SAFe in the Agile community.
I don't hate it, but something I do not understand.
Yeah, I mean, I had SAFe training, but I'm not that familiar with the framework. But I kind of say, every framework is important to understand, like, what are you trying to achieve, the values, the principles, rather than just kind of following the framework blindly. And same that I say about Scrum is understanding, why do you have all of those meetings, right? What is the purpose? And making sure that you're focusing on the value of each element rather than just kind of having it in your calendar.
Yeah, I feel that somehow they want to feel overwhelmed by having a lot of meetings that are not really required, because we have system demos, that we have community of practice, that we have Scrum of Scrums, and also sprint planning, iteration review, daily Scrum, a lot. Really a lot. Overstructure. They are overstructuring, in my opinion, Scrum.
Yeah.
But okay, I'm here also to fight the status quo. So it's part of my job.
Yes. Yeah. We do have that kind of weird organizational expectation, is that if your calendar is free, there is something wrong. Like, why don't you have 10,000 meetings? Why aren't you triple booked?
Sometimes I have to choose between 2 meetings. Which one should I go?
You just put in like one headphone, in one ear and the other one on the other one. 2 meetings. There's no.
I tried, but it's not possible for me. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah. I hope it was helpful. I hope that it kind of gave you some ideas of what you can do. At least, get started with some of those things. And,
yeah, for sure.
And start making the life of your team a bit easier.
Yeah, mine too. I brought just some challenges that I'm facing. One of the most common, I think, having heard about also other Scrum Master, is that not everyone is talking during retrospectives.
That's a common one.
And I have always the same 2 people which are really talkers during our one-to-ones, but they are not talking during retrospectives. I've tried to put them on the spotlight sometimes, asking directly, okay, what do you think about that? What's your feedback on this? Once happened me that these people disconnect from the call.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, really. He pretended,
wow.
I don't know if it's true or not, he pretended to have some technical problems, and I'm okay with that. Sometimes they are keeping me say that they don't have any feedback about. Sometimes they are giving some. But the overall situation is that they are not talking. How can I make them start talking? Because I think also that I'm not asking the right questions.
Well, how do you run your retro?
I run it differently. Every sprint retrospective for me is different. But I start with reminding them about the purpose of the retrospective. And I prepare a sort of agenda of the retrospective. The day before the retrospective, I collect feedbacks on possible topics that they like to cover. cover, so I can prepare something in advance, so I can focus on a particular topic and collect the feedback, having brainstorming session with them, or I can go through the mad, sad, glad format or the continue, stop, invent, act. But I like to keep it different. Every sprint retro should be different, in my opinion. So I keep them engaged. And during the sprint, I try to understand which topic could be better to be covered by talking with them.
So you kind of bring in the question.
Yes, exactly.
So you bring in the questions, well, not the questions, the topics, and kind of say, here are the, 5 topics that we have identified that we would like to talk about in this retro?
Yes, kind of.
Okay. And so then what do you do? Do you say, let's talk about topic number 1? What do you guys think? Or how do you do that?
Sometimes I do a brainstorming session and we collect feedback about does this situation make you feel about a particular topic and what you can do to improve. And based on the improvement section, we try to gather the action points to be focused on the next sprint, or we focus on what we'd like to stop about a particular topic of doing and how we can do it different in the next sprint and so on. So we can plan some actions for the future.
So when you brainstorm, do you say, let's take, 3 minutes, write down your thoughts? Or how does, what is the brain, right? Okay. And so everybody participates.
Yes, exactly. I give them sticky notes and they try to fill in the sticky notes. I remind them to try to write at least 1 sticky note per person, but most of the time, those people don't write any sticky notes.
Well, don't say try. At least 1 sticky note per person.
Avoiding try.
Yeah, no trying. You need to add 1 sticky note per person, and then I'm going to read through them. And obviously, each person is talking about their sticky note, right? There's something to say. Because when you say try, what do you mean try? Everybody's participating. Think about, you have 0 thoughts on this topic, really?
Okay, yeah, I follow you. And why if they don't write any sticky notes?
You wait for them.
Okay.
Honestly, sometimes I did it once, I had this situation once, and I was so mad that people were not participating. I remember that I said, okay, we're going to use the talking stick, but I'm going to do it, reverse it a little bit. Every person will have 2 minutes exactly to speak. Not more, not less, right? And so we're passing the talking stick to everyone. Well, some people obviously are talking too much, but then it got to this one guy who didn't talk. And so he said, well, I don't really have anything to do. And so he was holding the talking stick. Basically I don't have anything. And then he put it on the table, kind of saying, that's it, I'm done. I'm like, well, we still have 1 minute and 50 seconds. And we sat there for 1 minute, 50 seconds in complete silence.
And he wrote something?
No, it's just that I was proving the point. I'm like, hey, I'm going to put you on the spot because I need you to participate. Maybe this one time he didn't kind of come in and started participating. But next time, it was clear to him that I'm not going to bulge. And I was very, everybody needs to participate. You too. I know that you think that you can just kind of say, that's it, I'm done. No.
Yes.
No. You're still on the spot, right? So that can be some of the things that how I would sometimes approach it. But then what you can also do, I don't know how many people you have. You have
6 people.
6 people? Perfect. Do breakout rooms. I don't know if you have the software that you're using it can do.
Yes.
Maybe instead of actually let's brainstorm on the topic, actually give 1 topic to each pair, and you say, I'm gonna give it 1, 2 for all. Yeah, not even that. Just literally, we're gonna have 3 pairs, right? Pair number 1, you're gonna take topic 1, and once we get back into the main room, I'd like you to present your solutions. Basically, what can we do about this, right? Team number 2, you take topic 2.
Okay. Yeah.
So what it does is that they are just kind of in a pair, so it's easier for them to talk to each other. It's not like in a big group. As you say, some of those people are more comfortable to talk to you one-on-one.
Yeah, definitely.
And so you can kind of give them that opportunity, saying, hey, let's just do in pairs. So that it's a simple conversation. Think of some ideas of what can we do about these topics, what are some of the things that we can do differently next time, right, to improve, whether it's stop something or start doing something. That is some of the ways how you can like just make it a bit easier for some of them to communicate and contribute in this way. And then maybe you don't want to collect topics in advance. Maybe you want to collect topics in the retrospective as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let me take a note.
Maybe when they come into the retrospective, those are not the topics they actually want to talk about.
Okay. Even if I share it with them and we define it all together, I can feel it right somehow. That they want to speak about something else. Maybe something that came to their mind the same day they want to talk about that.
Exactly. Right? So give them that opportunity.
And how do you run a retrospective without a topic in mind? Which format do you recommend?
There are so many. Something super simple is honestly Lean Coffee, is where you just basically say, write down any questions or any topics you'd like to discuss. So there's no really format, right? You just kind of give them the reins, like whatever you want to talk about. Do you want to talk? Like you can even accept some funny topics. I had it once where someone said like wrote global warming on one of the topics, like, okay, do you guys want to talk about global warming? I mean, we can do that, definitely, right?
Was that funny?
We spent a couple of minutes actually talking about it with the team,
Okay.
But then you give them the opportunity to vote. So you give them like dot voting. Let's define which topics are the most popular ones, basically. Which ones do you want to discuss? And then based on the topics that got the most votes, you focus on those. So that's like the easiest way to run it, to be honest. And then you can use things like mad, sad, glad. You talked about it. So it's more about the questions that you ask. You say, okay, in this sprint, let's just look back on our sprint. And we have mad, sad, glad. Write down what made you mad, what made you sad, right? What made you glad during the past sprint. Just write down that, like, whatever comes into mind when you think about these. And in the same, you do a voting exercise or you group them. Like, it's good to group them if there are some things maybe related to each other, and try to understand people want to talk about most. Well, there isn't one solution for everything. And the more you dig, the more you find.
Really good advices on things that I've considered, but haven't realized could be the solution to my problems. Because having heard it from outside is different. It made me realize, okay, maybe I should go that way instead of trying to understand from every possible angles what's the
try it, it's gonna fail, and then you're gonna find the solution next time,
Yeah, because sometimes I fear that something could blow in my face.
Isn't it kind of like by default, it most likely is going to happen in some cases, so it's more of comes with the job.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
You're doing your best, attempting different solutions. There isn't one magical solution that's going to solve all of the problems in the team, and just kind of one step at a time, and some things won't work, and that's fine.
Yeah, I should go with that mindset also.
But that was good questions. Really enjoyed talking to you. I think that was really nice kind of having a little sneak peek into the life of your teams and what kind of challenges they're facing, and hopefully some of those things that you can implement and help them really become better and enjoy their work a bit more.
I'm pretty sure about that.
But thank you so much for joining me today to speak with me, and I hope to see you around in the comments.
Yeah, why don't? Thank you, Daria.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's awesome. Bye-bye.
Bye, Daria.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to hear more stories like this, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on all of the different platforms. We'll be posting the video version on YouTube and the audio on other podcast platforms. All of the links can be found below the video, or you can also go to scrummastered.com/podcast. You can also find the transcript and the show notes on my blog. And I'll see you in the next episode. Cheers and Scrum on!